Exposed: How my brother's incredible betrayal transformed my son's life in just 30 days. Jake stood on the porch, the evening sun casting a warm glow over Maplewood, feeling a knot tighten in his chest. Just 30 days ago, his world was simple: a single father, a loving son, and a peaceful life grounded in the values his father had instilled in him: honesty, hard work, and integrity. But all of that was about to change. Ethan had been under so much pressure lately, with college applications looming like storm clouds. Jake did everything to support him: long nights filled with study sessions, laughter, and dreams of futures filled with possibilities. But just when they thought they were weathering the storm together, Mike, his brother, stepped back into their lives. Mike, the family's golden child, had vanished years ago, lured away by glitz and glamour. Now he was back, flashing his flashy smile and sharing stories of wealth and success that practically sparkled. The neighbors were charmed, milling around Jake's yard, unaware of the tension that buzzed beneath the surface. Jake could feel a pit in his stomach. Should he welcome Mike back? His heart tugged, urging him to give family another chance. After all, even his late father would say, blood runs thicker than water. As time passed, Jake cautiously agreed to a business venture with Mike, hoping it would provide for Ethan's future. He believed in second chances, but those hopeful notions quickly turned sour. Mike's betrayal was elaborate, winding and deceitful, like a cruel twist of fate. With one swift betrayal, Mike had drained Jake's savings, leaving him shattered and questioning everything he had ever stood for. How could my own brother do this to me? He thought, the weight of disappointment nearly suffocating. Desperation clawed at Jake as he navigated the aftermath, determined to protect Ethan from the chaos threatening to envelop them. Will they come out of this stronger? Or would Mike's failure turn into failure for their family? Nights were spent holding back tears, burying emotions that threatened to spill over. Jake feigned normalcy for Ethan's sake. They had always been a team, even in the most challenging of times, but everything changed when Ethan picked up a paintbrush, finding an escape in art. His talent soared, voice breaking through with every stroke, a cathartic release that transformed each canvas into a testament of their struggles. As he prepared for a community exhibition, Jake felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Ethan could inspire others, rallying the town like the old Maplewood spirit that had always prevailed. This was a chance to rebuild and heal. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night of the exhibition approached, a palpable longing hung in the air: the hope for healing, for forgiveness, for the chance to rebuild trust that was so brutally severed. Jake felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down on him. Could he forgive Mike? Could they truly become a family again after this? The questions echoed in his mind. Ethan stepped onto the stage that night, poised to unveil his masterpiece. The community filled the room, faces unfamiliar yet inviting. As the lights dimmed, Jake silently watched. Each moment felt electric, a blend of anticipation and dread. Could this be the moment that changes everything for them? Or would it mark the beginning of a new heartache? In that crowded space, Jake held his breath, the answer teetering on the brink. Ethan took a deep breath, glancing nervously at the crowd gathered to see his art. The rustling of jackets and whispers filled the room, a concurrent heartbeat blending with his own. As the gallery lights brightened, casting a spotlight on the canvas, he could feel the weight of his father's gaze, heavy with expectation and hope. When the veil lifted, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. The painting was vibrant, swirling colors dancing across the canvas, telling a story of struggle, pain, and ultimately, resilience. It was more than just paint and brushstrokes, it was a piece of Ethan's heart laid bare for everyone to see. Shadows of darker hues captured moments of doubt and sorrow, while bright splashes symbolized hope and redemption. Jake felt a lump form in his throat, pride swelling within him. This was his son, courageous, vulnerable, and talented beyond measure. The walls Jake had erected to shield Ethan from the fallout of Mike's betrayal felt suddenly fragile. He realized that despite all that had happened, Ethan still carried light within him. The audience murmured in appreciation, leaning forward to soak in every detail. Faces softened as they processed the raw emotion radiating from the canvas. With each passing moment, Jake found himself yearning for something that felt achingly out of reach. Could there be forgiveness for Mike amidst all of this? Ethan finished his speech, even as it trembled with nerves. Art is how I speak when words fail me. I hope it resonates with someone else, too. The crowd erupted into applause, a beautiful, thunderous sound that rose and fell like waves on the shore. Tears blinked in Ethan's eyes, and his father felt the same warmth collecting at the edges of his own vision. As the applause faded, a familiar face emerged from the back of the room. Mike stood there, at the threshold, hesitation written all over him. Jake's heart raced, a mix of anger and sorrow pumping through his veins. Mike's smile had the same charm, but there was something different. Vulnerability, maybe? Regret? Is he here to apologize? Jake thought, battling an urge to move toward him. He wanted to confront Mike, to shake the man he once admired for all the pain he caused. Yet, the love for Ethan made Jake want to shield him from the potential heartbreak of their uncle lingering so close. Ethan noticed Mike too, and confusion flashed across his face, mixing with the joy of success. This was a moment meant for celebration, not family drama. But Jake could feel the room shift, the atmosphere palpably tense, as if it too were bracing for what came next. What do we do? Jake whispered to himself, his thoughts racing. With Mike standing there, the air thickened. What was meant to be a night of healing could easily slip into a scene of heartbreak. He watched Ethan's eyes dart between him and Mike, knowing this could change everything once again. Suddenly, Ethan stepped forward, the force of his own conviction guiding him, a spark igniting within. I know you're here, Mike. I hope to understand, he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos in his heart. Jake held his breath, feeling the weight of the moment, wondering if it was too late to unite their fractured family. Would Mike take that next step? Would he have the courage to mend what he had broken? As silence enveloped them, the next step seemed uncertain, dangling like the heavy air before a storm. And in that pregnant pause, Jake's heart whispered a single question: would forgiveness pave a road back to the family they had lost, or would it seal their fate as divided forever? Ethan took another deep breath, his heart pounding as he locked eyes with Mike. The room felt impossibly small, yet the weight of the moment stretched like an echo. He believed in the power of understanding, but doubt overshadowed his hope. Did Mike feel the same? Mike's voice broke the silence, raw and thick with emotion. I'm sorry. Just that simple phrase drew gasps. The audience seemed to lean in closer, every ear straining to capture the full weight of Mike's words. Jake felt a tangle of emotions. Anger flared inside him at the thought of seeing Mike again, yet Ethan's bravery stoked a flicker of hope. What if this was a stepping stone to repair? Desperate to protect Ethan, he wanted to rush to his side, but he also felt a deep longing to allow Ethan the chance to forge his own path. Ethan remained steady, his voice unwavering. You hurt me, Mike. You hurt Dad. But I've learned that forgiveness can set us free. The crowd held their breath, the emotional undertones palpable. Some faces reflected hope, while others mirrored apprehension. What are you doing, Ethan? Jake murmured under his breath. This can't be easy. But Ethan felt possessed by a resolve that surged through him. This moment can't just be about our pain. It has to be about moving forward. Each word seemed like a gust of wind, pushing aside the storm. Finally, Mike stepped cautiously into the room, his hands trembling at his sides. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm here to try and make it right. Why now? Ethan interrupted, his own emotions bubbling just beneath the surface. What changed? After what happened, I've had a lot of time to think. I realized how badly I messed up and how much I pushed away. I'm sorry for everything, Mike replied, his expression earnest but vulnerable. for a split second, everything felt suspended. Ethan searched Mike's face, looking for sincerity. Deep down, he sought a connection, an explanation. The blur of emotions mixed anger, betrayal, sympathy. Did Mike deserve a second chance? I don't know if I can just forget, Ethan said, his voice softer now yet laced with resolve. But maybe I can learn to let go, little by little. That earned murmurs from the crowd. Some stood up straighter, while others exchanged glances. Jake remained quiet, emotional walls threatening to break as he watched his son. He saw a maturity blossoming in Ethan that he hadn't recognized before. The tension in the room began to morph. What was once fraught with uncertainty now felt electrified, like the first spark of change. Emotions danced, weaving between pain and hope. I won't force you to trust me, Ethan. But I want to try to be better. Mike's voice spilled out, trembling yet steady, as if he were pleading for the forgiveness he felt deeply undeserving of. Ethan took another step closer, drawn to the reconciliation that hung dangerously in the balance. Could it really be that simple? Going forward meant confronting relentless hurt, yet it beckoned with the promise of freedom. Jake felt a surge of love for both men standing before him. It was raw, and perhaps dangerous, yet filled with something surprisingly beautiful. This may just be a beginning, he thought, a sliver of hope peeking through. Then suddenly, a disturbance rippled through the gallery. An art piece had fallen from the wall, shattering the fragile silence. All eyes turned, and Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. Was this yet another omen, signaling that their fragile piece could shatter too? Mike could sense the shift in atmosphere and glanced back at Ethan, panic flickering across his face. Jake instinctively willed his son to hold on to that breed of courage. What just happened? Ethan asked, glancing nervously as pieces of glass scattered across the floor, their sharp edges reflecting the lights. It was a moment of clarity in chaos, and now, with uncertainty reigning, what would this mean for their family? The stakes were high. Would they retreat into their pain, or could they seize the moment and embrace newfound strength? A choice loomed, an adventure awaited. The sound of glass tinkling in the quiet gallery sent shockwaves through Ethan's thoughts. For a brief moment, the weight of Mike's presence wavered, the fragile connection hanging in the air threatening to splinter. The wreckage lay scattered, glimmering menacingly beneath the gallery lights, a vivid reminder of how quickly things could break. "Is everyone okay?" called out a voice from across the room, snapping attention back to the present. Some audience members started to murmur among themselves, while a couple of them edged closer to the fallen artwork, stepping cautiously over the shards. Ethan's heart raced as he stole a quick glance at Jake, who seemed uneasy, like he wanted to step in but didn't know how. Ethan could feel the shift, a tremor of uncertainty that coursed through him, linking him to the chaos of the broken artwork. He turned back to Mike, whose face now mirrored his own turmoil. "Focus on us," Ethan said quietly, as if that would mend the gulf that had opened with the crashing glass. "This is bigger than the pieces on the floor, Mike. It's about us." Words tumbled out like a lifeline, a desperate effort to reclaim this moment. Mike took a breath, his distress visible, etched deeply across his features. "Right," he mumbled, rubbing the back of his neck, trying to regain composure. "Ethan, I didn't come here just to make things worse. I really want to heal, to understand how I can earn back your trust if you'll let me." Tears pricked at the corners of Ethan's eyes. Wanting to change is just the first step. But trust? That's a mountain to climb. The crowd, now partially re-engaged, felt the fragile thread woven through their words, an invisible bond lightly pulling them together. There were nods of understanding amongst the onlookers, a collective sigh of hope shared in silence. Jake felt a wild mix of gratitude and fear. He admired Ethan's strength, but the uncertainty still loomed heavy in his heart. What if this is just a ruse? He thought anxiously, wrestling with his protective instincts. Hope surged alongside doubt, creating a tumultuous whirlpool of emotions. "Ethan, I know I've ruined a lot," Mike continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want my presence in your life to mean something again. Shouldn't that count for something?" Ethan hesitated, caught between his past hurts and the glimmer of possibility. If we're going to try, then we have to mean it. All of us. Pockets of the audience held their breath, sharing the moment. The power of vulnerability filled the space, and Jake stepped closer, placing a steady hand on Ethan's shoulder. With that simple touch, he communicated his unwavering support. "What do you need from me?" Jake asked, strengthening their bond. "Let me do this," Ethan replied, his eyes gleaming. "Just be there. I have to face him. I just want to try." Around them, murmurs erupted, some expressing hope, while others shifted uneasily at the unfolding drama. It wasn't just about their family. Ethan's journey resonated deeply with anyone who had faced loss, betrayal, and the ensuing struggle for redemption. Then came the sound of an old clock in the gallery, ticking away, time moving forward, relentless and unyielding. It struck a chord in Ethan's heart. The journey ahead wouldn't be straightforward. Would it be filled with pain, testing his resolve? It felt overwhelming yet impossibly vibrant. "Maybe we start small," Ethan said, a smile breaking through the heaviness. "Let us get coffee tomorrow. Just us three. We can talk. No walls. Just being real." "Yeah. I'd like that," Mike nodded, his eyes widening at the possibility. Jake squeezed Ethan's shoulder gently, pride swelling inside him. "That's my boy, brave as ever." But before they could bask in what felt like a breakthrough, a voice from the crowd called out, shattering the moment. "What happens if it all goes wrong again?" Ethan turned, the weight of that question heavy on his heart. Was he really ready to take this leap? Would facing unpredictability, the reality of past pain, be worth the risk? With every heartbeat, change loomed closer, but now it was shrouded in doubt. Acceptance might come with a price. Ethan swallowed hard, staring into Mike's eyes, as the air pulsed with uncertainty. How could he plan for a future when it felt as raw as the shards on the floor? In that moment, kaleidoscopes of emotion spun between them, a dance of hope shaded with fear. What lay ahead was not just a choice, but an adventure to restore what had been lost. Little did they know, the path they would forge would soon lead to unexpected revelations that could change their lives forever. Would they confront their past, or allow it to persist like a dark shadow? The answer awaited them just beyond the horizon. Ethan stood there, feeling the tension in the air reverberate through him. The lingering question from the audience echoed in his mind: what happens if it all goes wrong again? That haunting thought trailed behind him like a shadow, refusing to be shaken off. He blinked, forcing himself back to the moment at hand. "Let us focus on tomorrow," he finally said, his voice steadier than the quaking in his heart. "One step at a time. We owe it to ourselves." Mike nodded, but his expression was still too guarded. It felt as if they were standing on a precipice. Each decision taken could either lead to a breakthrough or plunge them back into chaos. "Sounds easy enough, right?" Jake injected a light-hearted tone, trying to dissipate the heavy atmosphere, but the worry in his eyes betrayed him. "I'll even bring the coffee." Ethan half laughed, half sighed at Jake's attempt to ease the mood. It was a sweet gesture, but the reality weighed differently. How could they casually sip coffee while carrying the burden of their past? As the crowd began to disperse, whispers trailed behind them. Some expressed sympathy, others questioned the authenticity of Mike's motives. Ethan overheard snatches, "Isn't that risky? And what if he hurts him again?" Words that pinched at his heart. Ethan wrapped his arms around himself, feeling exposed. A wave of protectiveness surged over him for Jake. He knew how much Jake needed to feel safe after everything. "You ready to head out?" he asked, glancing at his son. "Yeah, let us go." Jake nodded, but his gaze lingered on Mike, full of questioning, confusion, and maybe a little bit of anger. Mike stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Ethan, can we talk alone for a second?" Ethan hesitated. "I think it's best if Jake stays." "Please," Mike said, desperation lurking behind that single word. "I need you to understand how serious I am." His eyes softened for just a moment, and Ethan sensed the genuine ache behind Mike's voice. But trust, like glass, was hard to piece back together once shattered. "All right," Ethan said finally, breathing deeply. "Let us step over here." They moved a few feet away, leaving Jake standing with a mix of concern and eagerness just behind them. Ethan felt nervous, the walls of the gallery closing in. It was a sacred space that now felt tainted, echoing with the sounds of shattered dreams. "I want to show you that I'm not the same person I was," Mike said, his voice cracking. "I've been in therapy, I'm working on myself." Ethan's heart clenched at the desperation in Mike's words. "That's not enough. You can't just work on yourself and expect it to fix everything." "Ethan, I know. I understand that it's going to take time. I don't expect you to just welcome me back with open arms." Mike's eyes shimmered, holding a deep sadness. "But I do want to try. I need to try. For Jake." Hearing Mike mention Jake made Ethan's stomach twist. "You think this will be easy?" "No," Mike replied firmly. "I think it's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm willing to fight for it. For both of you." The doubt clouded Ethan's thoughts as he shifted his weight. Could Mike really change? Or was this just another slip, a flicker of light before more darkness? Ethan's throat felt tight, and he reached out to the gallery wall for support. "I can't promise anything." "I understand," Mike whispered, looking down. "But I hope you'll give me that chance. We all need to face our fears at some point." Draining the tension from the air, Ethan nodded slowly. "Tomorrow morning then start fresh over coffee." "Yeah," Mike breathed as relief washed over him. But just as Ethan was about to turn back to Jake, a distant voice called out, "Ethan." He spun around, concern flooding in as he realized it was the head curator of the gallery. "There's been an issue with an artwork, something you need to see." He exchanged a look with Mike. "What now?" Before moving toward the curator, unease bubbling within him. Tomorrow loomed with uncertainty and promise. Yet, something deep in Ethan's gut told him this was just the beginning of unraveling truths that could alter everything once again. What else could be waiting just beneath the surface? Ethan rushed toward the curator, his mind racing. The weight of the conversation with Mike pressed heavily on him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was unfolding next could overshadow everything. "What has happened?" Ethan asked, his voice tight with anxiety. The curator shifted uneasily, glancing back at the gallery. The atmosphere seemed charged, like the moments before a storm. "There's been some damage to one of the pieces," the curator said, his brow furrowing. "It's the one you collaborated on, the one that was supposed to be the highlight of the exhibition." Ethan's heart sank. That piece wasn't just a work of art, it was a representation of hope and healing, born from his turbulent past with Mike. If it was damaged, what would that mean? The culmination of their shared journey could buckle under the weight of a single misfortune. "Where is it?" He could feel a nervous pulse in his temples as he tried to remain calm. "It's in the back room," the curator replied, leading the way. Ethan's stomach knotted tighter with each step, the gallery walls seeming to pulse around him, echoing his anxiety. As they entered the room, Ethan's eyes locked onto the canvas. It was trampled and smeared with paint. What was once vibrant now lay marred and grotesque. "No," he breathed, feeling as if each breath became heavier as despair washed over him. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I'll get the maintenance team to look at it, see if we can salvage it." The curator's voice trailed off, but Ethan barely heard. His mind spiraled into darkness, the image of the damaged work sliding into the context of his life, entangled with Mike's impending return. "Do you even understand what this meant to me?" Ethan asked, the anguish creeping into his tone. "It was never just a piece of art, it was my attempt to rebuild everything, my way of moving forward." "And now, Ethan, I know this feels overwhelming," the curator interrupted gently. "But we can fix it. We have time before the exhibition. Just breathe. Breathe." It felt impossible. The doubt surged again, the chaos of the past flashing before him. He turned away from the canvas, needing a moment to gather himself. "Can we get a mat or something to cover it?" Ethan said, his voice growing steady again, a fire igniting within him. "I can't let anyone see it like this." "Of course." As he stepped back outside, the weight of it all pressed down on him. Mike's serious tone, Jake's confused gaze, and now this, a reminder that everything could slip away, leaving him adrift. Jake was waiting, shifting nervously from one foot to the other. His son's blue eyes were full of concern as Ethan approached. "Dad, what happened?" "It's fine, just a little hiccup with one of the artworks," he reassured, though the lie tasted bitter. "Are you all right?" Jake asked, his voice tinged with tension. "Yeah, I will be." The words felt like a mantra. Maybe they both needed to believe it. Jake's gaze flitted back to the gallery entrance, where Mike stood anxiously, as if waiting for further judgment. "Are you sure about tomorrow?" Jake asked quietly. Ethan knelt, wanting to embrace his son's unease. "Jake, I don't know what tomorrow holds. But whatever happens, we'll handle it together." He held his son's gaze, hoping the strength behind those words could keep both of them afloat. As a single drop of paint fell from the damaged artwork to the floor, Ethan's unease stung him anew. The show was set to open in less than a week. How could he face Mike, his son, and this fracture in their lives all at once? In the middle of these uncertain swirling moments, an unexpected wave of determination surged inside him. They couldn't let the past define their future. Perhaps it was time to flip fear inside out. "Let us go home," he finally said. "Tomorrow, we'll deal with whatever comes our way." Ethan led Jake outside, but as they walked into the cool night air, a sense of foreboding crept back. What shadows had they failed to see? And as Ethan glanced back towards the gallery, he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. What other truths lay in waiting to be revealed? The air felt thicker as they stepped outside, the chill of the night wrapping around them like a damp blanket. Ethan clenched his fists at his sides, suppressing 1,000 thoughts swirling in his mind. The gallery's almost ready for the opening. "I can't let this ruin everything," he thought, battling the dread creeping in. Jake remained close, sensing his father's turmoil. "Dad?" he asked gently. "Are you really okay?" "Just thinking about everything," Ethan replied, forcing a smile that felt foreign on his face. Every time their lives felt like they were settling, another wave hit. The return of Mike, the damaged artwork, the pressure of the show, it was all consuming. He knew his son could feel it too. As they walked toward the car, Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, his heart skipping a beat as he saw Mike's name flashing on the screen. The past and present collided. Should he answer? "Go ahead," Jake urged, glancing over Ethan's shoulder. "It might be important." With a sigh, he tapped the screen. "Hey, Mike." His voice, though steady, masked the brewing storm inside. "Ethan, I need to talk to you," Mike said, his tone serious. "Can we meet?" Ethan hesitated. "Is this about the past, or?" "It's about us." "And Jake." Ethan's stomach dropped. "I'll think about it. I can't talk tonight." "Ethan, please." He hung up, his heart racing. Jake's eyes were wide, filled with questions that Ethan wasn't ready to answer. He nodded towards the car, indicating that they should get in. Once seated, Jake broke the silence. "Dad, how long are we going to keep avoiding him?" "I'm not avoiding him. I'm just trying to figure it out." Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. "But it's been months. I thought after all the time away, you'd feel ready." "I thought so too," Ethan admitted, feeling the exhaustion wash over him. "But now with this artwork." He paused, searching for the right words. "I just don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared about how all this will affect you." Jake leaned close, concern etched on his young face. "You know you can talk to me, right? I get that this is hard. But we're family," and family sticks together. Ethan was touched by his son's maturity, yet the weight of it all felt so hard to carry. Family isn't always easy, Jake. Sometimes, people can hurt each other without meaning to. Silence filled the car, heavy and palpable. Ethan remembered the way Mike had walked out all those months ago, leaving a chasm in their lives that seemed impossible to bridge. And now, with the gallery and the exhibition looming, he felt stuck in a cycle of unresolved emotions that he parked the car in their driveway, the familiar environment striking a chord in him. Everything was the same, yet so vastly different. "Let us get inside," he said, attempting to lighten the mood. "Maybe we can bake some cookies before bed." "I'd like that," Jake brightened, the tension lifting slightly as he climbed out. As they stepped inside, the scent of their modest home enveloped them, a comforting hug that made Ethan feel safe for a moment. But the shadow of uncertainty still lurked in the corners of his mind. Jake rifled through the cupboard for ingredients, but Ethan lingered at the door for a moment, staring out into the dark night. What awaited them tomorrow? Would Mike's return bring more pain, or could it offer a chance to heal? He had to believe that it could. With a resolute breath, he walked into the warm light of their kitchen. Whatever the outcome, his resolve sparked a determination deep within. He would protect his son and face the truth head-on. As the first batch of cookie dough began to form, a hesitant knock at the back door echoed through the house. Suddenly, the weight of their journey pressed in again. Ethan glanced at Jake, who looked equally surprised. "Do you think that?" The question hung in the air, heavy with possibilities. Ethan's heart raced as he moved toward the door, uncertainty gripping him. Would it be a new beginning, or was this the storm he had feared? Ethan approached the back door slowly, his pulse thrumming in his ears. The knock echoed again, firm but tentative. Jake stood behind him, biting his lip, curiosity mixed with concern written all over his face. Their kitchen, usually filled with warmth and laughter, felt like a waiting room now, anticipation thick in the air. "Should I open it?" Ethan asked, glancing back at Jake, whose eyes shone with hope and trepidation. "Yeah, it might be important," Jake replied, his young voice barely a whisper. With a deep breath, Ethan grasped the doorknob, its coolness a stark contrast to the heat radiating from his body. He opened the door, and his breath caught at the sight before him. Mike stood there, the moonlight casting a glow around him, illuminating the years that had forged deep lines on his face, lines of regret, perhaps, or maybe of resolution. There was a vulnerability in his posture, as if he wasn't quite sure of his welcome. "Ethan," he started, his voice barely rising above a hush, "I'm sorry for showing up like this." For a moment, time stood still. Ethan found himself at a crossroads, the past crashing into the present. "What do you want, Mike?" Ethan asked, struggling to keep his own voice steady. "I need to talk to you and Jake," Mike said, his eyes darting between them. Ethan glanced at Jake, who stood frozen behind him, uncertainty etched on his young face. "Jake, why don't you go grab your tablet? You can, I don't know, play a game in the living room?" He didn't want Jake to hear this. Jake hesitated, glancing back at Mike. "But, Dad, just do it, please." The words came out sharper than intended, and he immediately felt a pang of remorse when he saw Jake's disappointment. But he knew he had to protect him. Reluctantly, Jake retreated, heading for the living room, still throwing cautious glances over his shoulder. As soon as he was out of sight, Ethan turned back to Mike. The door hung ajar, revealing the quiet of the night behind them. "What do you need?" Ethan's voice was low, tight with a mix of anger and fear. "Can we sit?" Mike asked, shifting on his feet. Ethan stepped aside, allowing him to enter. Mike took a seat at the small dining table, the same one where they used to share dinners filled with laughter and dreams. Now, it felt like a stage set for a confrontation. "Ethan, I know I hurt you. I've spent months trying to figure this all out," Mike began, his gaze sincere. "But I've changed. I want to make things right for Jake." "Is that it? You just waltz back into our lives and expect everything to be okay?" Ethan shot back, bitterness creeping into his tone. You left us, Mike. You left him. I didn't come back to play the role of the perfect father. I know I messed up. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this to be better. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. The thought of Jake being hurt again sent a surge of protectiveness through him. What makes you think you can just show up here and expect us to welcome you back? Because I love him, Ethan, Mike replied earnestly. He is my son, too. I want to be part of his life. Those words tore at Ethan's heart. He wanted to believe Mike, but the scars left by the past still stung. You think that just saying you love him is enough? You have to earn that place back. You have to prove it to both of us. Ethan watched as Mike sat back, the weight of the unspoken words between them hanging heavily. The room felt charged, every detail noticeable: the clatter of a clock ticking in the background, a car passing by outside. Let me try, Ethan. Just give me a chance. For him, Mike's appeal was sincere, yet that pit of doubt twisted inside Ethan. Could he truly take a leap of faith again? Could he risk Jake's heart again? Ethan's mind began racing. The implications were enormous, the potential for betrayal just as present as the chance for healing. Would opening that door bring more pain, or the beginnings of reconciliation? He took a shaky breath, realizing he had to decide. The past was heavy, but the future could be light. I need time, Mike. You can't rush this. Just let me show you, then. Let me prove I'm here to stay, Mike replied, determination lighting his eyes. As Ethan nodded, uncertainty loomed large. The air hummed with questions that had no immediate answers. Could Mike truly change? And what would that mean for Jake? Ethan's thoughts swirled as he stared at the man he once loved and feared all at once. The night felt far from over, and as he gazed at Mike, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were at the edge of something pivotal yet unpredictable. Just then, a small voice broke the silence from the living room. Dad, can I come back in now? The question hung like an unresolved chord, dissonant yet promising. Ethan exchanged a worried glance with Mike. There was so much left unsaid, and the evening was just beginning. Ethan stood frozen, his heart racing as he processed Jake's voice creeping back into the conversation. The moment felt fragile, as if something precious and delicate hung in the balance. He turned back to Mike, whose gaze now flickered with a mix of hope and apprehension. Can we not do this now? Ethan whispered, desperation creeping into his voice. He knew the stakes were high. If Jake came back, they wouldn't have the privacy to discuss the things that needed laying bare. Okay, Mike replied softly, understanding the unspoken plea. He leaned back in his chair, tension coiling in his frame. Ethan took a moment to steady himself. Let's just let him come in, he murmured, knowing that their answers had to be shaped around Jake, not just the past. Yeah, Mike said, giving a hesitant nod. Ethan walked to the living room door, peeking in. Jake was perched on the edge of the couch, his tablet resting on his knee and a cloud of confusion shadowing his youthful face. Hey buddy, come back, Ethan started but was cut off. Is he here? Is he back? Jake's voice was a mix of excitement and caution. He shot Ethan a hopeful look, awaiting affirmation. Mike's here, Jake, Ethan said, forcing a smile that felt both strange and comforting. He gestured for his son to join them at the table. Why don't you come sit with us? Jake stood, hesitating for just a moment, clearly sensing the tension in the room. Okay, Ethan was struck by how quickly innocence could be overshadowed by unprocessed emotions. Jake moved into the kitchen, his eyes darting from Ethan to Mike, confusion painting his features. Hey, Jake, Mike began, pushing his own discomfort aside. I've missed you. Missed me? Jake echoed, sitting down with his tablet still in hand as if it were a shield. You just left. Why? The question hung in the air like a cloud about to burst, heavy and charged. I know it's no excuse, Mike started, feeling the heat of Jake's gaze. But I was in a bad place. Ethan could see the desperation in Mike's eyes as he tried to connect. to reach out. "I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry." Jake looked down, his small hands gripping the tablet tightly. "Do you really want to be part of my life?" "I do," Mike said earnestly, his voice steadying. "I want to be here for you, Jake. I want to be a better dad." Ethan felt a swell of emotion at his son's vulnerability. His heart broke for Jake, the innocent longing in his gaze, as he searched for something to believe in. "I want to believe you," Jake replied quietly. "But how do I know you won't just leave again?" Mike's expression shifted, raw and open. "I want to show you. I want to be there, to prove that I'm serious this time." "That's what he said before," Ethan interjected, holding his breath. The warmth of the moment felt reminiscent but fraught with the risk of relapse. "Can we really trust that something's different now?" Jake looked at Ethan, searching for guidance, but Ethan felt as lost as he did. Could Mike be trusted, and what would that mean for their little family, now teetering on the edge of hope and heartbreak? "Just give me time," Mike urged, his eyes pleading. "I need time to prove it to both of you." Ethan glanced back at Jake. Recognition of their shared struggle sat heavily between them. Jake looked small, his innocent heart filled with the weight of life's complexities. Ethan couldn't help but wonder if they would have to navigate this fractured landscape together. Suddenly, on an instinct, Ethan reached out, placing a hand on Jake's shoulder. It was meant to be grounding, a moment of unity, but uncertainty coursed through him. "Let's just take one step at a time." Ethan's voice was firm yet soft, a promise laced through the uncertainty. As silence enveloped the room, the tension flickered, palpable yet fragile, creating a thin thread of possibility. But that thread seemed ready to snap under the weight of secrets yet to be revealed. Suddenly, Jake broke the silence with a twisted sort of humor. "So you're back in dad mode?" The air lightened a bit, his awkward attempt at levity challenging the heaviness. But just as smiles began to emerge, the doorbell rang again, this time, more urgent. "What now?" Ethan muttered under his breath, his heart sinking. He could feel that another surprise awaited them. "Dad?" Jake asked, wide-eyed again, as the three of them shared a glance laden with anxiety. Who could possibly be at the door now? Ethan's pulse quickened. Let's hope this isn't another person from the past. Whatever awaited them behind that door could shift the course of the evening again, and Ethan felt that the calm they had just found might be more fleeting than he dared to hope. What struggle lay just outside, ready to pull them once more into the unknown? Jake took a deep breath as Ethan walked toward the door again. He could feel the unease in the air, thick as fog on a chilly morning. With every step his father took, Jake's mind raced, brimming with questions like an overflowing pot. Who was it now? What could possibly change the tide of their already turbulent evening? As Ethan opened the door, the figure standing there made Jake's heart skip a beat. It was their neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, her face flushed with urgency. "Ethan. I'm so sorry to intrude, but I thought you should know that someone has been asking about you, your brother." Ethan's face fell, a mixture of anger and weariness crossing over him. "Mike?" Mrs. Callahan nodded grimly. "He's been searching for you." He seemed distraught. "Maybe you should." "Just when I thought things might start to get better," Ethan muttered, the weight of exasperation settling over him like a heavy blanket. Anxiety gripped him again as he turned to Jake, who looked caught between concern and confusion. Ethan let out a deep sigh, running a hand through his hair. "Do you think he is serious this time? Or is he just looking for a way to stir the pot again? Do you want to talk to him?" Jake asked quietly, his voice steady, hinting at a maturity that made Ethan's chest swell with pride. "I don't know, buddy. It's complicated," Ethan replied, feeling worn thin by the emotional roller coaster. But deep down, he realized he had to face this moment, not just for himself but for Jake. "Maybe we can all sit down together and talk it out," Jake suggested, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "You don't have to decide right now." Ethan looked at his son, willing himself not to let doubt cloud his judgment. Could Mike genuinely mean it? Maybe this was a pivotal moment after all, a chance for a fresh start. As he stepped back from the door, Ethan saw Mike approaching, his demeanor frazzled, anxiety radiating off him in waves. "Ethan. Please, just give me a moment," Mike called out, his voice strained. Seeing the desperation in Mike's eyes stirred something deep within Ethan, an unexpected twinge of empathy. With an exhale, he turned back to their guest. "Maybe, just for a minute, we can hear him out. For Jake's sake." Mrs. Callahan nodded, sensing the tension, and gave Jake a reassuring smile before stepping aside. With a hesitant nod from Jake, Ethan opened the door wider, allowing Mike to step inside. Mike shuffled in, pausing in the threshold, uncertain of his welcome. "I didn't mean to intrude, I just thought maybe it's time we talked," he began, his voice wavering slightly. Jake watched from a few steps behind Ethan, his anticipation palpable. "Talk about what?" he asked, half cautious, half curious. "I know I messed up, and I don't expect you to just forgive me," Mike said, locking eyes with Ethan first before his gaze shifted to Jake, "but I want to be a part of your lives again." Ethan could see the turmoil etched across Mike's face. The months apart had taken a toll, unveiling the cracks in the man he once had looked up to. But was that enough? "You think you can just come in here and expect a warm welcome after everything?" Ethan retorted, resisting the urge to let his anger boil over. "I'm not asking for a warm welcome," Mike replied earnestly, desperation giving him strength. "Just a chance, a shot to prove that I can be here for both of you this time." Jake exchanged glances with his father, uncertainty mirrored in his eyes. "We don't want to get hurt again," Jake said, his little voice trembling slightly. "I know," Mike said, his expression softening. "But I'm trying to change for you, Jake. I'm in therapy, working through my past. I've learned that love mends broken things." Ethan felt his heart waver. Could he believe this? Looking between Mike and Jake, he saw something fragile forming a bridge across dangers they had refused to cross before. "You say you're working on yourself. Show it. Prove it. Both of us deserve to see this change." "I will, I promise. I'll give everything to show you," Mike declared, eyes earnest. "Please let me try." The air in the room shifted, palpable hope weaving into the tension. In that moment, time seemed to slow, deep breaths mingling with the uncertainty that filled the air. As difficult as it is to face the past, we've been through a lot together, Ethan began cautiously, finding unexpected strength in his own resolve. "So, if we're going to move forward, we need to communicate, openly. Let us not bury things this time." Jake nodded, a mix of worry and hope etched on his face. "And no hiding the truth anymore," he interjected, his voice gaining strength. "We can work this out as a family if you really mean it." Mike swallowed hard, glancing between father and son. "I do mean it, every word. You both mean the world to me." Ethan saw a flicker of sincerity in Mike's eyes, but the road ahead felt uncertain and steep. This could be a reset, a chance for understanding, or a step back into heartbreak. "All right," Ethan said softly, feeling a mix of fear and possibility rising within him. "We'll take this one day at a time. We owe it to ourselves to try." In that shared moment, three hearts began to shift, the fragile bonds slowly stringing themselves back together amidst uncertainty, woven tightly by a shared commitment to love and healing. They each inhaled, ready to embrace this new chapter, whatever it may bring. And as possibilities danced cautiously at the edge of hope, Ethan felt a flicker of warmth blooming in the corners of his heart, carrying with it a promise that love, in its many forms, could heal even the deepest wounds. Now was the time for open roads, the chance for transformation lay ahead. And if you're moved by this story, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share what true family means. This community thrives on your love and support.